I'm resident of Collinwood for YouTube, Joel Sage, joined by my buddy Gordan Dymowski and my buddy Patrick McCray. We're here to talk The Prisoner. The Schizoid Man is the episode, by God. So we have two Patrick McGoowans. It not because one wasn't enough. No, but I really like the number two in this episode, but I actually like the ending of this episode the best. But what did you guys think of it overall, and what was your favorite scene?
Gordon, I'm going to start with this one.
Okay, well,
I have trouble with this one.
Okay, well, first I will say that I thought that this number two should have been the number two in a change of mind, because he's got that nice amount of smarm and that kind of nice little, hey, old chap, let's go. Secondly, just an aside, Flapjack Charlie was my stripper name, so I'm just putting that out there. I think the pancakes were the best part, and I'm going to disagree with you about the ending, Jewel, because I have seen so many episodes, and I don't know if The Prisoner started it or it was just kind of one of the trends of, hey, talk to me about that say hi to your wife. Okay, I will. Your wife's been dead a few years, so it also does some weird things with time. Like, we're supposed to expect that, okay, they remove a calendar and number 6 is taken away and basically conditioned to like not be himself. And then he's put back and not notice that like there's no seasonal change, and basically just put the calendar there and go, okay, without the rest of the village like not saying, oh no, it's not February, it's June. So I think there's some good moments in it, but I'm not sure I couldn't call it one of my favorites.
Omax and Baymont. For you G.I. Joe fans out there. Yeah, Jewel, I gotta tell you something. When a man enjoys a piece of art, he got an hour of his to experience in pleasure, and he will have that hour again every time he watches it. And I am to say anything to hush that mellow. And I know for a fact you like this episode. And I want to hear from you. There's a lot to say, but I don't know if it would contribute positively in the way that your insight could. You got some cool stuff out of this, and I think that's more important. Patty Crabby.
Well, I like the psychology of what they're going to do here. I mean, because with this episode specifically, they're doing they're putting number 6 against number 6 in a weird about way. They're trying to convince number 6 that he's somebody he's not, and that the number 6 that they put in number 6's room isn't really number 6 at all, which I like. It gives good psychology. And I do wish with this episode they didn't show a bit of the sneak of how they did it, but I don't feel it takes away from it. I love how he wakes up in someone else's room. He's got this black mustache. His hair is all black. And they're telling him, well, now you have to be number 6. You look like him, but you have to be him. And I'm thinking, okay, they're telling the guy he has to be him. And what they're really doing is they're going the opposite way from their standpoint of, well, they know how strong number 6 will really is by this episode. They figured him out. They figured out his willpower. And what's the best way to break someone's willpower? To make them think, not that he's somebody else, but to make him think he's not himself, and for him to tell why he resigned, and then that'll prove he's himself. Not just to himself, and not necessarily to them, but more to himself. With them, it's like, we got you. They're wanting to go, we got you. And in a lot about way, I appreciate it for that. I really enjoyed the fight sequence, the sword fighting in this episode. I enjoyed the pistols without the bullets. I love the fake number six's explanation because it made sense. Yeah, number two doesn't trust us with real bullets. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock.
Right.
I'm like, really? You gotta explain me to that? But and I love the ending of this episode simply because we get a reveal a bit about the people who work for number one in this sense. The guy who's the fake number six isn't just the fake number six. I get the sense from this episode this is a close personal friend of number two's. This number two's that they're either really close friends or they're best friends. He just when he says Sally's been dead, he's not saying just Sally's been dead because he's been told. He went to the fucking funeral. And why do you go to a funeral? Well, because you're friends with somebody or you've been to the wedding as well. There's a closer relationship.
You tell Gordan all about it. I'll be back in just a moment. Here's something strange inside. Hang on.
Okay.
But there's a closer relationship between number two and the fake number six. To me, they're best friends. He knows everything. This isn't just somebody who opened up a file and read about the guy. He knows about him because he does know him personally. And that's something I took away from this episode. And it makes it really, really fun watch and really, really good, in my opinion.
Yeah, I didn't see that. I saw it as more kind of a guy, two guys who work together.
Yeah.
And that, because in the beginning he's like, oh, okay, yeah, it's yeah, we called you Flapjack Charlie. The other thing though, the reason why I kind of wouldn't see them as friends is that, okay, they're they're basically, would you bring someone in who's a friend to try to break somebody else, but have them basically give up their identity for a few months just for the sake of breaking a guy who's going to give out information? You can do that with an acquaintance. I mean, my thinking is, everyone in the village, basically it's like a big office. It's like, in fact, that would be a great version of the office, is to set it in the village. You have Steve Carell as number two. As number two, you've got Rainn Wilson coming in as a supervisor. Here's the you got Jim and Pam, going back and forth. You have the stapler and the Jello. But I think that, again, I think this particular number two is a little bit more kind of pally, Yeah. Hello, old chap. You're my bud. You're my bro. Let's have some brews. No, actually, here he'd be more like, let's have some fine snifters of brandy, and they'd be, you'd have number 27, aka Roger Collins, smashing brandy snifters out of anger because he's like, and he's in the village because, well, hey, Louis Edmonds, why not? But no, but I do think there's I'm probably not as down on this episode as Patrick seems to be. It's not one of my favorites because I think some of the logic doesn't, it's like they spend months essentially grooming number six and number 12, his doppelganger. That makes sense, but okay, number six decides, okay, he's going to cure himself of his left-handedness by grabbing a lamp and shocking it, or okay, he's going to try doing it by it just, some of the logic in it doesn't quite make sense. I mean, the idea of getting number six to break is a good idea, especially since they were probably thinking number 12 says, hey, I resigned because I never got enough pancakes. And number six said, no, I resigned because bloop.
Yeah. I think too, like the look on number two's face when he tells the real number six about Sally's death too is a hint of the friendship. It's not just a work related. when I say he brings in somebody who's his best friend, he's bringing in someone who's his best friend that he's worked with for years and years as well.
Mhm.
And again, this is a best friend in a sense that maybe has nothing to lose because of his wife dying all those years ago. Maybe they just didn't have kids. That's a possibility. And with that, when he tells number 6 about Sally's death, he looks very sort of somber, saddish, where it's like, I just lost my best friend, and you're not the real number 12. And there's sort of hints to this that he's not the real number 12 as they're going along. He's saying things that number 2 is sort of like fishy about. He is, you don't meet him, and which I like. So, and then there's the final test before he gets on the helicopter. We'll tell Sally I said hi, and it's just like, and when he says it, and then when number 6 lands, he doesn't hit him, which I think would have been too much. He does just the right thing by saying, number 6, Sally's been dead for so long, and been dead for long enough to know that he knows Sally's gone, because he knows Sally's gone, not from reading the file, not from not just talking to number 12. Number 2 went to the funeral. And I think it gives a very human feel to the people who work for number 1, which I really like this episode for.
Well, that's a really interesting. I wish all of that had been in the script, but again, I think that ending has been, in my opinion, variations of that ending have been so overused in other media. For me, it just did not. To me, it just rang very false.
Yeah. What's your biggest positive and negative about this episode?
Let's see. I think the positive is some of the banter between the two.
Yeah.
Between the two number 6s. Let's see. I think the idea that they avoided one of the easiest cliches to do, which is I'm the real one. I'm the real one and I resigned because blah. No, that would have been easy. That would have been easy to do. The number 2 in this one is really good. In terms of negatives, boy.
Christ.
I think the first is that the reliance on ESP, because that seemed like a little.
Yeah.
There could have been a better way to do that. The ending, as I said, I think. I also think that the idea that you can condition someone over the past few months and not have anyone break it by saying like, "Hey, it's June." Oh wait, no, my calendar says February. Like that seemed a little.
In a plot that is driven on trying to convince number 6 that he's number 12 when the real number 12 is, that beyond the Susan death thing, there would just be some other kind of fail-safe. I'll touch my eyebrow every time I come in the office or something like that he would not tell number 6 about when number 6 is in drag as number 12. I mean, it just seems like the easiest thing in the world. Why would it take to that point? Number 2, who's a fine actor, and I like the banter, and he's a very refreshing, kind of crisp, interesting figure to have, is a terrible. He's really bad at his job, because that's the first thing. That's the first thing I think you would do, in my opinion, is the fail-safe, the touch the eyebrow, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, one of the fail-safes prior to that whole final ending isn't so much that. The fail-safe is the password. Now, they give the Gemini password to the real number 6, Patrick McGowan, and I think they give a different password to the fake number 6, number 12, which it's like that's where Patrick gets into it with him, where he's like, what's the real password? What's the real password to Rover is what he's asking.
Yeah.
And because Rover could not tell either of them apart, which I think was a really great scene. Them walking together, and it's like, okay, who's Rover going to attack here? Which was really well done. Then it's well done again later, and then it attacks their guy.
That would have come psychopath.
What's that?
That would boom taken care of.
Yeah. So I know I like this episode more than you guys do, but you guys go ahead and talk about it. What's the biggest stripes overall?
May I?
Yes.
Go right ahead.
Okay. It is a very expensive project.
Yeah.
We get that. I mean, it's crazy expensive. And so what's writing on this has to be that valuable. Okay, got it. There's expensive, and then there's what I call ermine mudflap, where you are spending money so insanely, you might as well be a silent movie goddess from the 20s. With gold faucets and stuff like that. Number one had to be in Tahiti on vacation when this number two came in and planned this. Let's see if I get this straight. To get information out of number six, we're so bereft of ideas because we just take them out back and them with rubber hoses. It always works. Let's have the dogs on them or something. Going to find someone, and he better be my best friend. We're gonna find someone. We're going to give him extensive surgery to make him look just like Patrick McGowan. And then we're going to take Patrick McGowan and we're going to change the hand that he does stuff with when we can't break him for anything. We can't break this guy for anything. And yet we can develop him up so far that we can change which hand is his dominant hand. That at that point, number six is crazy. If he holds on to that piece of information when all this other stuff gets rewritten. And then we'll make him look like a bad stereotyped Italian. As if that's going to convince him. This unconvincing black hair dye. And then we're going to create this conflict. So a year in the making, at least, just starting with getting number 12 to look like Patrick McGowan. This is the most insane, elaborate, crazy, expensive plan they could possibly initiate. And Rover's not going to be able to tell the difference. You're not going to give him something that Rover can like go pass on his watch or that just goes, okay, it's the right guy. From God's destroy business and so on. And then we're throwing ESP while you're at it. This is the wackiest. I don't call it dead, but it is the wackiest, most elaborate, plan ever come up with. I mean, in the narrative, when you work in these other, you can see, working this out. But this is one where it's fun. If somebody outacts Patrick doing. I love the look of it. I love the white on black or the black on white, outfit with the and I like what it was. They had some really great images in mind. And then they had to come up with a story to support it. And work, but the image behind it was so great. And Julie, as you say, the psychology behind it, the moment you're out of the thing where the whole is not greater than the sum of the parts, I guess. But it has such fun moments in it. And I would give it a pass, and I give it a pass too. But it's a wacky plan.
Jordan.
Okay, well, this is going to kind of spin off of some of Patrick's comments. But it's also, I think, with a production like The Prisoner, you usually get, it was a show that was written in one sequence, produced in a second, and shown in a third. And when you're doing a show like this, if you've got the 7 scripts that you're going to do, or at least 6 because Fallout hadn't been written yet, you're trying to find good variations on the theme to expand the season. So you get something like Hammer and Anvil, which makes sense. It's a great idea. You play it out. But there comes a time when you're trying to hit that 9th or 10th where it doesn't matter whether it's good. You've got to put a script into production ASAP. And this has some nice ideas, but the execution and just the thought process that goes through it doesn't make sense. Because as Patrick said, even though it's a wacky plot, think about it. If they can they have number 6, like drugged and hypnotized and everything else, why not just ask him there, hey, we know why you resigned, and mess with his head that way? I mean, McGowan in bed wouldn't make for compelling television, but to do this whole mind mess thing just seems there's, and it seems like they threw it seems like there's bits that they threw in just for like the ESP. That makes no sense other than, well, we got to put something in to make sure we figure out so that he's betrayed.
You know what it is? It's fun to see number 6 indulging this girl and helping her out with her act and the tech stuff, and that is seemingly completely legit on number 6. It doesn't necessarily believe in psychic powers, but I almost kind of think maybe number 6 has a thing for her, and this is like, Happy Days type Ralph Mouth to get in good with her. That to me is fun.
Yeah, well, this is maybe the only actress who actually got on with them, who didn't report any problems with them.
Really?
What?
That's interesting. I mean, I would say, what's the story there? But there's no story because there was nothing to report because they got along.
Right. I mean, and don't knock yourself out. There are actresses who talk about how he was rude to the director. They felt abused by him, but she was just like, hey, I never had any problems with him.
Yeah.
Because that really reflects his treatment of her character.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, okay. Have you ever seen the movie Mr. Roberts with Henry Fonda?
Yeah.
Well, there were punches thrown between Henry Fonda and John Ford. So, I mean, punches being thrown between arguments or punches being thrown between director and actors is nothing new.
It's not, but with McGowan, this was, and again, I go to that documentary, Don't Knock Yourself Out, on YouTube. He came close at least once to actually killing a guy, strangling him. He publicly berated directors. I was doing I was watching a trailer from another film that Alexis Canner did in Canada, where the two of them were really drunk and misbehaving. And you really get the sense that with this project, it's one thing for creatively to have tension and it comes to fists, but something like this where you're under a lot of pressure, and McGowan was like not willing to delegate. Now you would handle this in a much more different, much more organized way. And I think this script really shows how it shows some of the desperation, because there's a really cool idea in there, in that, okay, we're going to attack number 6 by having him deal with himself. There's a great idea there. But it kind of works out with this weird, the logic, it never quite meshes the way it should. It never quite, because there's so much in terms of, like, instead of shooting, why not do Kasho? The trampolines in the swimming pool. That would have been great because you just have two stump men and they beat each other and they both, afterwards, it's a draw.
Gordon, I'm thinking there are two ways that I think they could have made this work a little bit. One is to go further into science fiction, and it's just a clone.
Right.
It's just a clone from a vat that they have hooked up overnight. Okay, fine. Because all they need to do is say it's science fiction, and boom, we accept that. The other, and this it would have been interesting to see how they handle it to not give away too much, is if this is a double that had been created for some prior thing years ago, like a decade ago, for something that number 6 was in on. That they had to have it to deceive someone. They don't say what it was for, but that that they already a long time ago, and that guy reportedly went a little weird and started thinking he was John Drake, and so just went away. That's the story. And so when he shows up, or when number 6 is, that they convince him he's that guy, and he's come to the village to kind of dry out, and and that he has to confront the real guy again and get to know who he really was. And I think something like that, where it's just been a pre-existing thing, so you don't have the year of the funky hand and all of that stuff. Maybe that would have worked.
Yeah, I think actually that would work because especially since you can have the twist of the guy who thinks he's number 6 start to become number 6-ish in terms of, I'm not going to tell you why I resigned. Why should I cooperate with you? And become defiant. And then having two number 6s fight each other because number 6 is like, hey, look, I am a free man. I'm an individual. You can't be me.
Sure. And maybe he sees the number 6 wannabe going a little too far. Like being sort of extra, just like beating up Angela Muscat or whatever. It's like, whoa. Yes, we want to get out, but let's dial it in a little bit.
Yeah. I really enjoyed this overall for what it is. Now, there's another thing they could have did. Could you have seen them sort of going the Fantastic Voyage route?
Yes. I don't know what I hope someone gets miniaturized.
Well, sort of putting him to sleep and sending people into his sort of brain and performing some sort of surgery to where they're tricking him or something.
Sure. I love that.
Yeah.
You just like to imagine that's Dr. Loomis in an early adventure.
Yeah.
One frame.
Yeah.
I like that. Did I ever tell you if I had gotten in charge of the Friday the 13th franchise, what I would have done?
What's that?
Bring Mark Gilman on through. So, two things. It would have been two movies. One would have followed the other. Oh my God! She's excited. They've got Jason's body, and they're taking it to Japan for scientific study. And the ship capsizes, and his biocapsule floats on the island, where he grows to gigantic size, as do his coveralls, as does his mask, as does his machete. Cages are across at giant size, skyscraper size, kaiju size. And so they have to, now he's threatening to murder buildings. And he fights other kaiju. Big, great movie. So they get a mission ray at the end of the movie, and Dr. Hakima, shoots him with that, and he just atomizes, but he doesn't atomize. He's split into hundreds of millions of tiny Jason with machetes and tiny hockey pads. And the president is in Japan throwing up over broccoli or something, whatever was George Bush did. And they get all of the micro Jasons except for one. The president actually, that's the one time the president did inhale. Jason is now working as through the president to the president's brain, and they find out. And so then they have to shrink down a team of teenagers.
Yeah.
To fight him inside the president's brain.
Or they shrink down Freddy Krueger.
That's the sequel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now you sort of now.
You're not a.
I like your Friday the 13th. No, I like that you went with Friday the 13th. Now, for me, like, see, Jason X is a lot of fun. Okay, that's a fun movie, and I actually like most of the reboot they did with Derek with Mears as the Jason. For Halloween, for Michael Myers, what I would love to see is them finally confirm something sort of hinted in Halloween H2O, that Michael Myers has just been out there killing people, randomly stalking and killing people on Halloween or all year round. And there's no survivors, so no one knows who's really doing the shit.
Sure.
And the one survivor, the one photo you saw or drawing you see in Dr. Loomis in H2O, Dr. Loomis has a deduction board where there's a drawn photo of Michael's mask. And I don't think that's from Laurie Strode. I think that's from another murder where one person, literally one person, did survive. But the reason no one believes her other than Sam Loomis is because the girl is schizophrenic.
She's talking about William Shatner.
Yeah.
There's an albino Shatner after me.
Yeah.
And now Shatner.
But for this episode, of The Prisoner, I really enjoyed it from start to finish. I know you guys aren't fans of this episode.
You had a good time, and we support you. We're happy for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's for me, it's a lot of fun. I do like the one thing I wish they wouldn't have did was completely showed the change, but I'm not gonna complain about it too much. I will say I really like this number 2. He was really different. And that's the thing too. A lot of the number 2s are different. And he's very calm. He's very cool. He's very relaxed. He doesn't scream. He doesn't yell. He doesn't throw punches. I really enjoyed his chemistry with the fake number 6 and then the real number 6. Overall.
I also
Mm-hmm.
number 6, because this is like somewhere in Europe, but it's undefinable really where. So it reminds me of the Europe in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And number 6 gets one of the Wonka bars because of the golden ticket. And for some reason they let him go to the factory tour. And it's the Gene Wilder and you remake. And of course, number 6 with his intense sense of discipline, he's going to be the last one because he realizes it's maybe his freedom and free confrontation, when he says, "Good day, sir," and all of that. Number 6. And he just doesn't understand that. No, it's really straight. It's just a weird factory run by strange little, like Angela Muscat with orange makeup. And maybe he's one of them. And the elevator goes up, and number 6 thinks, "I've escaped," and it lands back in the village.
Oh, see, I would think that number 6 would want to use the Oompa Loompas as like his new villagers, and he becomes the new number 2.
That's another, the whole factory.
Mm-hmm.
Factory, or the old factory, is, it's a second village. Maybe it's the earliest village.
You know what? That's what this episode really needed is Oompa Loompas.
Can you imagine? You can't tell any of them apart. which is, kind of racist, but whatever.
Did you ever see WrestleMania 3 where Big John Studd, or no, King Kong Bundy and Hillbilly Jim had midgets and they were wrestling with them?
Can't say that.
I just did.
Little people.
They're little people.
Sorry, little people. Yeah, Hillbilly Jim and King Kong Bundy were wrestling a match, and their teams were little people. Like there were little people dressed like Hillbilly Jim and little people dressed like King Kong Bundy.
This is so fraught with politically incorrect danger. I nod.
I will only offer in response that I preferred the WrestleMania where King Kong Bundy took on Hong Kong Phooey. I'm just leaving that there.
It never was a super guy.
Oh my god! Oh my god! But yeah, it happened. So it's a really interesting match. But
or the WrestleMania where Gary Coleman took on Emmanuel Lewis. That was kind of a challenge.
Have you ever heard of the guy Beetlejuice from what is it? Howard Stern?
No.
There's this guy named Beetlejuice, and he wears like a Superman outfit, and he was in WWE for a short time, and then WCW later on. And Jeff Jarrett's walking by with his guitar, and he calls Jeff Jarrett a slap nuts, and Jeff Jarrett just hits him over the head with a guitar.
That's what this episode needed.
Yep, it needed a guy hitting people with a guitar.
It's number XXX. It's the hillbilly number 6. And that's what he's having to face off against. Who's the real number 6? You or the hillbilly? Well, we're going to find out. No, I can't even tell. Oh, now salted the entire South. Wait, they beat me to it.
Oh god. Oh my god. But what are you guys' overall and final thoughts for this episode of The Prisoner?
Fun, it's wacky, and if you just look at it as not a documentary or something, but fun and wacky, you'll have a good time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is one where you don't, when you rewatch it, it's okay to kind of skip it.
Guys, next Sunday, are you guys available for next Sunday?
I'm not, because I'm going to be somewhere else where we could talk about doing a special podcast.
Oh, that's right.
So that's for Memorial Day. We can do either one.
Yep. How about Friday? Are you guys good Friday or no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So Friday, I'll talk to Karen and Christine for the Mega Dark Shadows episode about time travel.
Oh. You mean the ladies?
Yes, the Between the Shadows lady.
Oh, does that mean I actually have to behave and be polite and stuff?
You never have to behave on this podcast. God, I never behave.
They're not going to know what hit them. They're going to love you.
Well, that wasn't the direction I was heading in, Patrick, and you know that. I'm a bit of a miscreant. I'm a loner, a rebel. There are things about me you wouldn't understand. Things about me you couldn't understand. Things about me you shouldn't understand.
Okay.
Is 11 p.m. too late for you guys? Is that good for Friday night?
That's fine.
Okay.
That's good for me because that's 10 p.m. my time. So
Friday 11 p.m. Sunday, Patrick, me and you 10:30.
Quick question before we end.
Yes.
Do I need to attend a recording sober?
No, listen. Listen. I'm not wearing any pants right now. Okay. You don't need. Listen. Okay. You only,
TMI, Joel. TMI.
You only need a t-shirt and your voice, and that's it. Okay. That's it. That's what you need here.
I don't know how he got from should I be doing this sober to I'm not wearing pants, but there you go.
Like, you guys are too worried about being sober and stuff. Listen, my wife earlier is telling me about she's gonna go buy some wine after she gets done off of work. I'm like, I don't care. But
Oh, and by the way, people, just so you know, Patrick and I always wear pants to this podcast because we care about you.
Oh my god! So Friday, guys, I'm gonna get a hold of Christine and Kara, so let them know it's Friday. So I am so excited about the big. By the way, we're not just discussing time travel; we're going to discuss parallel time too that night. So big episode, big episode.
If it has the word time in it, we're doing it.
Yeah. By the way, Gordon, I'm going to send you something about parallel time that I found on a YouTube channel. I think you'd find interesting.
Oh, cool.
I'll send it to Patrick too. It's really, really interesting. So, link to the Dark Shadows Daybook Unbound is going to be in the description box. Link to Gordan Dymowski's Amazon page is going to be in the description box. Guys, you enjoy what's left of your weekend and be safe, my friends.
Thank you.
Good night, all.
Good night, guys. Bye.